Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I head out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Good morning, listeners. It's Friday, August 9th, and I'm enjoying a very pleasant day here in suburban Chicago. I expect that next week will mark a more solid return to my broadcasting schedule. Hopefully those of you who've missed it will enjoy that return. Those of you who've been happy for the time off, I guess, sorry. I'll try to be back more. I guess you could always stop listening, but I hope you don't. I hope you enjoy taking this walk with me occasionally, as I enjoy walking with you. I apologize, it's going to be very noisy. It seems like a few cicadas are out. If you don't have cicadas in your part of the world, cicadas are these big bugs, maybe 3 inches long, and they sit up in the tree and they make a really loud buzzing noise, I guess to attract other cicadas so they can have cicada hugging and kissing time. So you're going to hear those throughout the walk, I'm sure. Hopefully that's fun. Well, last week was my first trip to Gencon, and boy howdy was it amazing. What a fun time. So today I thought I'd talk a little bit about my experiences there, give you a couple moments that I found particularly fun or interesting or enlightening or whatever, my top 5 moments. Talk a little bit about what I did there generally as well. So to start with the general overview, I went to Gencon with my pal Rob, who is my design partner. I've mentioned him a few times on the podcast, I suppose. And we went as part of the First Exposure Playtest Hall. Now, the First Exposure Playtest Hall is an interesting experience. It costs a little bit of money to go, and you can either go on the regular package or the deluxe package. The regular package gives you 4 playtest sessions throughout the week, and the deluxe package gives you 8 sessions throughout the week. We decided to go with the deluxe package because we have a number of games we wanted to playtest, and then because we had the deluxe package and they had some open slots, they offered additional slots for free to those of us who had signed up for the deluxe package. So we ended up getting 10 slots in total. We used 9 of them. One of them we passed on because we were just getting a little burnt out. And I think in future we probably won't schedule any playtests for the 10 p.m. to midnight slot. It's just, frankly, we just need to have some time to do non-playtesting and have fun and digest the experiences we've had with the playtests. We also attended a secret playtesting event with some of our pals from XYZ Game Labs, and we ran our games a couple other times anyway. We were just hanging out with people and we said, hey, you want to try this thing? So all of those things together meant that I think I figured out we did 23 hours of playtesting over the course of those 4 days. And for those of you who, I'm sure most of you understand, but when I say playtesting, I mean we're having other people play our games and tell us what they thought. So overall, it was a really productive trip from that perspective. But we also did spend some time walking the exhibit hall, playing some games with people. We did not go to very many events, in part because we were so heavily scheduled on the playtesting thing, we didn't have time to book events, but also because we were new to Gen Con, we didn't really spend a lot of time planning anything other than the playtests. We learned quite a few lessons. I'll maybe talk about lessons we learned in another episode. But today I wanted to talk about my top 5 moments. And in the tradition of a top 5 list, I will start with number 5 and work my way toward number 1 so that the best moment, the standout moment, is at the top of the list. So number 5 is an event in the CGE room. Now I cannot for the life of me, I think it's Boards Alive maybe. There was some Facebook group, a huge Facebook group, which I've joined, that had a meetup in this one particular room, and a couple of our friends told us they were going to it, so we decided to go as well. And it ended up being in the CGE room, which I thought was kind of strange. So CGE, Czech Games Edition, had a room that they used to sell and demo their work instead of using the exhibit hall. And this gathering was in that room after they'd closed, so you couldn't buy any CGE games. But they were all sort of on display, and I didn't see any security or anything, so it's very strange. I hope no one took anything. It was a little weird. I'm not sure how I'd have felt as an exhibitor having this big social event in my room, but maybe CGE was hosting it. Anyhow, it was a gathering of a variety of people. I saw a number of sort of well-known podcasters there, or YouTubers. I didn't really say hello to any of them just because I didn't have enough to say about them to be able to comment intelligently on their channels. The moment though that was the sort of thrill was a friend of ours was playtesting a game that they're thinking of buying, and so he had just finished playing with somebody, and somebody else wanted to try it, and I hopped in as the other opponent, and we started playing. And early on I hadn't really thought through the strategy right away, so I was kind of on my back feet for most of the game, but I kept just plugging away, just using my strategy as well as I could. I got very close to losing at one point, but then I slowly inched my way back and ended up winning in almost the last turn I could possibly have. So it was pretty great. It was a pretty great turnaround and a nice little gaming win in a weekend of gaming where I didn't really do much gaming. I think other than our play tests, I played maybe 10 or 15 games over the 4 days, as opposed to like when I went to Origins in 2017, I think I played 51 games. So from a gaming perspective, there wasn't all that much gaming at Gencon, but highlight was winning at this prototype game after almost being defeated, and the narrow comeback. Number 4, this is a kind of double hit here. It was meeting famous people. Board game famous anyway. I met 2 sort of really notable famous people and re-met 2 as well. The ones I re-met, I have talked a number of times with Jonathan Edwards, the host of the Forgot My Dice podcast, or one of the hosts. And he was at Gen Con and we got to meet up and chat a little bit. So that was fun. I also spent a couple minutes talking to Isaac Childress, and that was pretty fun because I reminded him that we had played Bonanza at Origins in 2017 with my daughter, and he said, oh yeah, she kicked all our butts, which was a very nice thing for him to say. I went back and looked at my board game stats, and I recorded that he won, but I think we all like to remember that she was having a pretty great game, even if in the final scoring he won, as he's legendary for having done so. But both of those were neat, but not the top notch in terms of meeting famous people. Emotionally, those were both very gratifying, but just meeting famous people was really exciting. I got to play a short game with Rob Davio. He was there demoing Heist, which is a new game that he has put out. I don't even remember the name of the publisher. It's got a little gizmo, just pretty neat. You're, as a group, trying to do a thing, and the game sort of tells you to do stuff quick. It's a fast response kind of game, really fun. And then I got to meet Paul Grogan. Actually, I just saw him walking along. I said, hi, excuse me, are you Paul Grogan? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, oh, I love your videos. And we got talking. Felt a little bad. I said, you taught me to play Cerebria. And he said, oh, that video. He told us a long story about how hard that video had been able to get online, and his software kept crashing, and because of that there's a couple errors in it, and apparently he is an absolute perfectionist when it comes to his videos, so he doesn't like that video, which I feel kind of bad that he doesn't like it, because I thought it was really effective. But so that's but I got to meet him anyway, and I got a picture with him, so it's fun to meet Paul Grogan and Rob Davio. Those are my number 4. Number 3 was a social experience. My buddy and we got a reservation for St. Elmo's Steakhouse in Indianapolis there. St. Elmo's was an amazing dinner. I had steak, which I don't usually eat steak, but every now and again, getting a steak is pretty good. They had really good appetizers and food. I don't drink wine, but I hear the wine was good. So the food itself was really amazing, but Rob and I went with a bunch of the folks from XYZ Game Labs, and we really enjoyed getting to spend time with them and get to know them a little bit more socially. So it was Wednesday night too, so it was the beginning of the con, and it really was a great way to kick off the event. Delightful dinner at St. Elmo's Steakhouse. So number 2 really moment sort of summarizes the experience I had playtesting throughout the con, but I'm highlighting this one. So the first exposure playtest hall, the way it works is that each 2-hour block you get one group of people to playtest your game with. And for our games, which take about 20 minutes to play, that ends up being a little short. So some of the groups we actually played 2 different games with. But this particular group, we just had them play 3 times. And this was Hindsight 2020, which is our real-time dice drafting puzzle game. And real-time co-op dice drafting puzzle game. And we had this family come, which included a kid who was 10 or 11. So that was really good because it was good to see how a younger player would handle the game. I mean, other than our own children. And it was just a very good play test. They got the game. They worked cooperatively. They played their way up to. We had them play the teaching game. We had them play on level 1. Then we had them try level 3. And level 3 they did not quite win, but you could tell they were into it. They had a really great time. And they were dressed like the characters from Pandemic. So the dad was dressed like the construction worker character with the high-vis vest and the hard hat. And the son, one of the kids was a soldier and one of the kids was a medic. So they were the family from Pandemic. It was great. And they were really good play testers, gave lots of good feedback, and helped us really see how solidly that game is working. And finally, the most memorable or exciting moment from the con was Rob and I had a meeting with a full-on publisher. And not to say that, we said our friends at XYZ Game Labs are publishers as well, but they're a fledgling company. They've only got a couple games out. We did have one meeting with a really prominent publisher who has published hundreds of games or dozens at least, and is really well known across the industry. And so we had pitches for them, and despite being this sort of very well established company, their representative was just the nicest guy. And so we had a half-hour meeting with him. He basically said no to our game in about the first 30 seconds. But as we talked to him, he had other ideas, and we sort of talked about it, and he eventually said, yeah, please do send it to me when you've worked on these other ideas. And then we got to pitch him like 2 more games, even though we knew they probably weren't right for his company. But we said, we like the way your company makes games. Could we show you these things anyway? And he had the half an hour set aside to talk to us. And it was such a warm, pleasant meeting. And I couldn't have asked for a better meeting other than him saying, yeah, we'll sign all 3 of these games or whatever, right? But, barring him actually taking the games, it couldn't have been a nicer way to start the experience of pitching. And one of the big takeaways, I said I'll do takeaways next time, but one of the big takeaways that Rob and I have is that we really are going to focus on pitching more of our games because we develop games much faster than we publish them. We are ostensibly a publisher as well. But the pitching part is a fun way to communicate what we've got with the game, and then allows us to get our work out there more easily. So that part was really good as well. And then I did leave one thing off. So when you work closely with somebody for a long time, like the design partnership Rob and I have, you develop a language between yourselves, and you develop a friendship, of course. But we hadn't really traveled together for the kind of length we're talking about here, and there's always the possibility that things would go askew, and it was just lovely that they didn't. We had a great trip together, spent a lot of time working on things. We had some discussions that got a bit heated, but they were really good heated. It was a good kind of, how do we tackle this problem? And we both would take sides and kind of argue through it, and it was a very effective week, both personally and within the game design sphere, and for our friendship. And so that's sort of the secret 6th top 5 thing, is just spending time with my design partner and really enjoying that experience. So I'm rounding the corner. You can already hear the big bobcat working away, so I'm going to sign off. I hope that you had a lovely Gen Con if you went. If you didn't, pop into the guild and let us know how you Gencanted. What did you do instead of going to Gencon? What did you play? What kinds of things have you been doing? As I said, I'm heading toward starting the schedule again, so if there are particular topics or questions you'd like me to engage with, I've found that to be a very productive way to have ideas for the show and engage with the community. So feel free to post those as well. I encourage all of that kind of conversation to happen over on Board Game Geek and Guild 3269, which is the Pick Up and Deliver Guild. You can search for guilds, Pick Up and Deliver. Or actually, honestly, Google Pick Up and Deliver Guild is the easiest way to find it on Board Game Geek, because Google is smart. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.